China has called on all parties to exercise restraint and resolve the issue within the framework of the 2015 Mix-2 agreement.
China's stance on Ukraine is consistent and clear. To solve the issue, we should return to the Minsk-2 agreement. The agreement is endorsed by the UN Security Council. It's a basic political document recognized by all parties and should be earnestly implemented. China supports efforts that conform to the spirit of this agreement. At the same time, we call on all parties to remain calm and refrain from inflaming tensions or hyping up the crisis.
Mozambique is still reeling from the impact of a tropical storm Ana, which passed over Madagascar last Saturday and made landfall in Mozambique on Monday. At least 40 people were killed as intense rains caused landslides and washed away buildings. Many homes were flooded and a bridge in the Mozambican city of Tete was destroyed. Authorities have declared a state of disaster. Across southern and eastern Africa, at least 88 people are feared to have been killed by Storm Ana. Another storm is threatening more severe weather.
4 children died, plus the man from the army too. So far, 5 people have been confirmed dead, but for sure, more have definitely died. This time round, nobody told us where the water was coming from. Each neighbor was just running for themselves.
The water was coming very fast. We couldn't save our belongings because the water suddenly came.
The Tunisian government has extended by 2 weeks COVID-related restrictions it reimposed earlier this month. These include a 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. curfew, the wearing of masks and ensuring social distancing. It's also encouraging people to work remotely. Adnan Chauchi has more details.
Tunisian authorities now require people to show a vaccine and immunization passport before accessing all public and private facilities. However, the rapid spread of the Omicron variant has become a matter of great concern. The Tunisian health minister says the number of COVID infections and related deaths is on the rise in the country.
The epidemiological situation is difficult. The Omicron variant is now dominant. Tunisia is in the midst of the 5th wave of the pandemic, and the number of positive cases is on the rise. The situation will not improve without vigilance.
Tunisia is tightening public transport restrictions and preventive measures at bus and train stations amid this surge in Omicron cases. More than 1 million commuters use public transport every day in the North African state.
All commuters must show the vaccination passport. It will not be possible to enter any public transport station without this document. Those who don't respect the law will not be authorized to use public transport. We are trying to avoid crowding at the bus stops to protect public health during the pandemic.
Dense urban areas have been hit hard by the COVID-19 crisis due to the limited availability of public transport. Many people have welcomed the new restrictions.
Tightening preventative measures is important. The immunization passport forces all commuters to get vaccinated.
Unvaccinated people do not have the right to put other people's lives at risk. There's no alternative to mass vaccination and strict public health measures.
The overall number of fully vaccinated Tunisians hit 6.3 million this week. Health officials say more than 26,000 people have died of COVID-related complications so far. Tunisian public health and transportation experts assert that it's impossible to respect social distancing in overcrowded buses and trains. In fact, overcrowded public transportation worries commuters as COVID-19 cases rise in the country. Adnan Chauchi, CGTN, Tunis.
To Nigeria now, where the presence of COVID-19 vaccines that are close to expiry has been fueling hesitancy to take the jab. The government has since embarked on destroying expired doses, and as a result, more residents are now eager to receive their vaccination. Here's CGTN's Najma Abdirazak with more details.
Nigeria, like other African countries, initially struggled to get enough COVID-19 doses. But with the help of the COVAX scheme and donation by wealthier countries, the government managed to secure substantial supplies. However, some of the doses received had a very short shelf life and close to the expire date. This made many Nigerians to hesitate about getting vaccinated.
We've been scared before, seriously, but the way people have been taking it, they are well, they are doing their normal business, nothing to them, so in that case we decided to take it. We've been scared before, seriously.
Fortunately, while I came to the market here, one of the vaccine organizer met with me and said I should come and take the vaccine. And when I looked at it, it is actually not expired. This one is the main vaccine. So I believe I have confidence in the federal government now that they've given us the vaccine that we've waited long to get.
Nigeria destroyed more than 1 million doses of expired AstraZeneca vaccines in December. The move aimed at assuring the public that they had been taken out of circulation.
It's good for government to discard those ones that they know that are bad, and they've done so. Why can't we come out and take it? It's good for us to take it. It's for our own sake and our family.
Africa's top public health bodies have now called for donated COVID-19 vaccines to come with a shelf life of at least 3 to 6 months. The Nigerian government also insists it will no longer accept vaccines close to expiry. Najma Abdirizak, CGTN.
South Africa is keeping a close watch on its lions, pumas and other wild animals in captivity for possible signs of COVID-19. While several big cats tested positive for the coronavirus during the first and second waves at a private zoo. It is understood the felines contracted the virus from zoo staff. There have been several cases of wild animals being infected around the world, leading to the culling of some. But the lions and pumas in South Africa have fully recovered. Here is Julie Shire with that report.
There was concern over animals in captivity when COVID-19 was detected in a handful of South Africa's big cats at a private zoo. The virus was passed on from staff with no visible signs of being ill.
The person that had the same strain was actually the big cat keeper. He was responsible for feeding the lions and for cleaning their cages. So it looks like, during that time, he basically got the Delta variant that were circulating in South Africa, and he had transmitted it over to the lions.
The felines have recovered well, but African lions are a vulnerable species, falling prey to habitat loss and poaching. COVID-19 poses a further risk should a new strain emerge from animal infection.
The concern is more the lions than the people. And so that in a zoo setting where animals are kept in captivity, it's important to implement infection control, so to wear masks, to make sure that staff are vaccinated, and also to use hand sanitizers and foot baths and so on when you walk into the cages to prevent them from getting infected from humans.
The Johannesburg Zoo has taken no chances. With around 3,000 animals. It's implemented strict protocols around visitors and staff.
We basically divided all teams that were working with animals into two, so that if one group became infected, then the other group would come in and continue in terms of the husbandry measures and all. And we started also the screening process to ensure that anyone who was sick or ill or showing any symptoms would not be in contact with the animals.
The pride of lions seen here have been healthy throughout the pandemic.
We haven't seen anything really related to possible COVID infection in our lions and in our other carnivores as well. But we have been well aware and monitoring these animals, because from the outset when this outbreak started, we became really conscious that we need to protect our animals.
Some zoos in Canada and the United States have started vaccinating animals to minimize the risk from human transmission. It's a consideration for South Africa should there be any further infections. Julie Shara, CGTN, South Africa.
In South Africa's Western Cape province, a dog hotel is becoming popular with pet lovers. The furry animals get 24-hour supervision. They also have access to the luxuries of a splash pool and giant lounges. Let's take a look.
Nestled in South Africa's coastal city of Cape Town is Super Wolf, a hotel and daycare for canines. The dogs are groomed when brought to this boutique.
Some of the key offerings we have is our splendid outdoor super sky deck. We've got a full table view mountain, the splash pool, not only AstroTurf but genuine grass as well, so the dogs have that natural feel, although it's in the city, so being a central offering. We've got our customized Superwolf lounges, which are absolutely delightful for the doggos. They really love sharing that space as a sleeping zone. Of course, we've got our handlers and staff on duty 24/7 to make sure that there's never ever a moment that a dog is being left unattended.
They are given close attention, allowed to hang out and play, as well as taken for walks and allowed to rest.
Dogs are man's best friend for a reason, but other than that, they come from spaces where that's their regular day-to-day treatment, and I think more so now than ever, dogs are people's children, so they don't want to just be left at home to do nothing. They come here and get well spoiled, and just to make sure that at the end of the day they're knackered and happy when they go home.
People can also adopt a dog from the shelter.
I would choose all of them, but I will have to just go with Stevie. Stevie's fun. Stevie likes me a lot. Stevie, when he sees me, he goes crazy. So I adopted that. So yeah, he's one of my best.
To use the hotel or daycare for a day costs between $10 to $18. Nokuthula Shabalala, CGTN.
And here's a quick recap of our headlines at this hour. West African leaders have suspended Burkina Faso from the regional bloc ECOWAS. Leaders met virtually on Friday to discuss developments in Burkina Faso. On Monday, the military forced President Roch Kabore to resign and suspended the constitution. In the Sudan, the Civil Forces Association and several other groups have left the Forces of Freedom and Change. This turn of events has hampered efforts by the United Nations to initiate dialogue between all Sudanese stakeholders. And the White House says President Joe Biden has warned of what he calls a distinct possibility that Russia might invade the Ukraine next month. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov on Friday said Moscow does not want war, but he added that it will also not allow its interests to be ignored. And that's a look at your headlines. Well, let's now go to Hannah Vivier for a look at the day's business news. Hannah.
Thank you so much for that, Beatrice. Here's what's coming up in business. Uganda is set to give a green light to the long-delayed oil project as it eyes exports by 2025. And South Africa's producer inflation accelerated more than expected in December amid rising energy prices.
Africa is the nexus of enterprise, and global business will tell you why it matters.
From the mega investment projects to multi-billion-dollar mergers and acquisitions.
Africa today collects, just in terms of revenues from taxes alone, $545 billion a year. If you take 10% of that and you devote it to the energy sector, problem solved.
All this on Global Business, weekdays at this time on CGTN.
Africa Live. Find your voice.
Welcome back to Africa Live. Let's take a look at what's happening in the world of business. We begin in Uganda, where the state-owned oil company is planning to sign a final investment decision on February the 1st for a large oil field and pipeline project as it looks to become a crude exporter. Total Energies and China National Offshore Oil Corporation, alongside Uganda National Oil Company, are developing projects expected to reach an output of 230,000 barrels a day. Ugandan President Yoweri Museveni said last year that an agreement was reached with the companies to start production by 2025. A range of agreements related to the projects were already completed last year. Well, elsewhere, producer inflation in South Africa accelerated more than expected in December, highlighting the effect of higher energy prices globally. The producer price index for final manufactured goods rose 10.8% year-on-year in December, up from 9.6% in November. The main contributors to the higher number included coke, petroleum, chemicals, rubber, and plastic products, according to Stats SA. The product categories incorporate petrol and diesel prices, which are hovering near record highs. On a basis, the index rose 1.3%. Analysts say the global supply chain disruptions and higher oil prices are hitting manufacturers' operating costs. Well, staying in South Africa, the Reserve Bank hiked its repo rate by 25 basis points on Thursday in a move that was in line with market expectations. The Apex Bank's governor says the rate hike comes against a backdrop of higher global and local inflation. South Africa's inflation has been ticking up in recent months and jumped to 5.9% in December, just a fraction away from the Reserve Bank's upper target of 6%.
Risks to the inflation outlook are assessed to the upside. Global producer price and food price inflation continued to surprise higher in recent months and could do so again. Oil prices increased strongly through 2021 and are up sharply year to date. Current oil prices sit well above forecasted levels for this year. Electricity and other administered prices continue to present short and medium-term risks. Given the moderate medium and long-term inflation projections set out above, higher domestic import tariffs, stronger services inflation, and higher wage demands present additional upside risks to the inflation forecast.
Well, staying in the Southern African region, we head over to Zimbabwe, which is in danger of missing out on economic growth targets in the first quarter of the year if ongoing power outages persist. As Harai Mokutuya now reports from Harare, load shedding is being implemented to manage limited power supplies while the power utility conducts maintenance work at the main hydro power plant.
Electricity is back for the first time in 3 days at Ivan Mandigo's workshop, so it's all hands on deck as he tries to make up on lost time.
I have 2 or 3 orders to finish, but I have also lost 2 other jobs because the customers wanted their products quickly.
A strict load shedding schedule implemented due to maintenance work at the Kariba hydropower station has wreaked havoc on his business.
We are operating at 50% capacity. We have power for 8 hours a day and for only 3 or 4 days a week. So we have a huge backlog, and when we do have power, like now, we end up overworking the machines and they get damaged. Even the meters end up tripping because they are overloaded, which also holds us back.
The impact of load shedding is felt immediately by micro and small enterprises, many of whom operate on a subsistence basis. However, the long-running power challenges have disrupted big business and had a ripple effect on the entire economy. Some players in the key mining industry are walking a fine line as they have been forced to resort to costly alternatives like diesel power generators to keep operations ticking.
You have to remain cost effective. We are price takers, so it is your cost side, your cost structure that you have to manage. So adequate, reliable and cost effective power is inevitable for a mining entity.
Output losses have been reported at some mines.
They affect, obviously, what the mining industry in terms of the growth path that we're expecting, which also means the contribution of mining to economy, exports, as well as the mining GDP will also be affected. We anticipate if the situation remains unresolved, we may lose output as much as 6 to 10% of our potential targets.
That could dent national revenue and growth targets as other key sectors like manufacturing and agriculture, on which the country is pinning hopes, suffer from the electricity-induced regular work stoppages. Farai Mokutuya, CGTN, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Let's head all the way up north of the continent to Egypt, where the real estate sector there is steadily recovering after the COVID-19 induced slowdown. According to authorities in the North African state, lenders granted $500 million to real estate companies last year, up from about $215 million in 2020. And that was to boost recovery. CGTN's Yasser Hakim has the details from Cairo.
Real estate is a major sector in the Egyptian economy, accounting for about 18% of GDP, and is one of the highest employing sectors, while affecting many feeder industries directly and indirectly. It's this reason that led to the state supporting developers and construction companies at the peak of the coronavirus pandemic.
Construction did not stop during the global lockdown, and even the president himself was following up to make sure work was continuing while adhering to anti-COVID health measures. Developers and construction companies did not stop work and were supported by the government financially to continue progress in their projects.
With a fast-growing population of over 102 million people, demand for housing in Egypt has always exceeded supply by an average 30% annually, which has kept the sector floating throughout different crises.
The negative impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on many sectors led individuals to turn to real estate as a safe form of personal investment, and this is deep-rooted in Egyptian culture to invest savings in real estate during times of recession. Secondly, financial initiatives worth hundreds of billions of Egyptian pounds by the state, never seen before, have helped keep the sector floating in tough periods during the last 2 years.
The real estate's recovery, however, has been slowed down by global inflationary prices of raw material, supply chain disruptions, and growing labor costs. And this has pushed unit prices up, and with an economic recession, sales dropped significantly. That has led developers such as Pyramid's company, which invests in housing, commercial and administrative compounds in the new capital, introducing new payment facilities to attract clients.
The state helped us stimulate the market by reducing interest rates on real estate loans from 10% to only 3%, and we also extended payment terms up to 10 and even 30 years. The government also eased regulations for clients to receive housing loans. This helped large segments like the youth and low-income earners to buy housing units that they would have been unable to own.
To increase sales further, developers targeted a different unit segment that has been quickly growing.
Egyptians used to focus their investments on housing units, but recently there's been an upturn in building malls and up-to-date administrative buildings. With fast-paced economic activity came more demand for these units from companies, which led individuals to invest in it as a more profitable alternative to housing. So sales of commercial and administrative units is increasing.
What makes real estate promising for the future is the government's recent building spree. It's currently constructing 24 new cities, including the new capital, as well as upgrading the old cities, all in partnership with the private sector. Experts say these mega projects guarantee continuous growth and influx of investments that guard against any economic crisis, such as have been seen with the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic. Yes, Hakim for CGTN, Cairo.
Well, those are all the business stories we have for you here on Africa Live. I'll be back in about 20 minutes for global business, and we'll be looking at Zimbabwe's central bank, which has agreed to refine the foreign currency auction system in a move aimed at addressing instability in the local currency market and to help tame high inflation. So what are the implications of this move for the country's economy? We'll be exploring this and much more at the top of the hour. For now, more on Africa Live with Beatrice.
Hannah, thank you. Well, we still have more news for you here on the program. Here's what's ahead. We'll focus on a dance instructor in Uganda using performances to foster mental wellness.
I wanted to prove to those critics that I could make something out of myself.
In Liberia, when you talk about football, football is life.
Josh was a magnificent player.
He's our hero.
Well, let's head to South Africa now, where researchers have noted a growth in the population of many whale species that visit the country's coastline. Researchers believe the recent discovery of 2 whale carcasses in Cape Town could be a symptom of this growth. CGTN's Travers Andrews has more.
Since the end of commercial whaling, whale species around the globe have been growing steadily, with some even growing exponentially. That's according to researchers at the Sea Search Research and Conservation, who have been closely tracking various species of whales. After nearly being decimated around 100 years ago, whale populations are showing encouraging signs of a recovery.
A lot of the whale populations around the world are recovering or have been recovering for many decades since the end of commercial whaling, particularly in the Southern Ocean. Most species in the Southern Ocean, that include the blue whale, the humpback, the minke, etc., have showed some signs of increase. Most of those populations have been increasing essentially exponentially, and because the numbers were so small, it's been decades and, well, literally decades now of slow recovery.
2 species that have been closely monitored include the humpback and southern white whales, who migrate to South Africa's coastline. Humpback whale supergroups consisting of up to 200 animals have recently visited the Atlantic seaboard, which points to a species particularly enjoying a spurt in population growth.
There are now concerns as these populations are increasing, as they're like getting back to what we think is near the carrying capacity of the environment. We're starting to see these trends where populations are responding or to broader environmental changes, things like the El Nino. We know the El Nino affects the amount of food available in the Southern Ocean, and in El Nino year, we see more feeding here of Southern Africa on our west coast feeding ground, and that's for both the right whales and humpback whales.
Now, researchers believe the recent discovery of 2 juvenile humpback whale carcasses in Cape Town recently may be evidence of that population growth, as mortalities amongst large groups is not unusual. The fact that they were young and died of natural causes also indicate increased competition for food resources. Travers Andrews, CGTN, Cape Town.
A dance instructor in Uganda is using dance to help women through some of life's rough moments. According to medical experts in the country, many people have had a difficult time with their mental well-being through almost 2 years of the COVID-19 pandemic. Leonte Nyange reports.
Jerry Opoka's passion has always been dancing. She has turned that passion for the South American fitness dance program Zumba into something else, helping women improve their mental health.
We spend our lives fitting in different boxes. Now, when you start dancing, you start coming out of this place. I don't know, it's like you shake yourself out of the space that you were stuck inside, and you start to appreciate everything and everyone more, so you start to stretch yourself out. Yes.
Jerry has run the session for 8 years now, and every session is a different experience. The dance sessions here last about 2 hours. It is fun and exciting. The participants say they feel much better after. 29-year-old Namuduna Bira has struggled with her mental health. The dancing has offered a huge relief.
I used to have a lot of anxiety issues, but when I dance, I'm like, everything goes out to the wind, and it's just the music. And also it's a way of connecting with people. You make people, and dance connects you, music connects you.
For others, dancing is helping them find peace within.
You know, you're out there working, there's stresses, but when you come here, you let loose. You just feel so calm and peaceful, and yeah, you get to move your body and feel good at the end of the day.
I wake up more refreshed, more relaxed, and for some reason when you're here, you just forget about everything. So when you get out, you have a fresh perspective about everything.
Mental health well-being remains a delicate issue in Uganda, as it does worldwide. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a devastating impact on many who are struggling to cope. Jerry says it is the varied approaches like dancing that could help deal with the challenge.
We all get it. we need to start talking about it. We need to start taking care of ourselves. The beauty is that the things we need to do are so simple. Speak, know yourself. Just think, how am I feeling now? Get out in nature.
With every dance move alongside other dancers, these participants are breaking down the invisible walls around them and having fun at the same time. Leon Sanyange, CGTN, Kampala, Uganda.
Well, let's now take a look at your sports news. Here's what's ahead. Rafael Nadal and Daniil Medvedev is set up showdown in the Australian Open final.